हरे कृष्णा। अभी यहाँ पर भगवत गीता क्लास इंग्लिश में होगा, तो जिन लोगों को यहाँ पर भगवत गीता क्लास अटेंड करना है यहाँ पर कृपया शांति से बैठे। हरे कृष्णा।
माला किसका है? माला किसका है? हरे कृष्ण। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we'll continue our discussion on the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, text number 28. The chapter is entitled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we are reading text number 28. So the verse is written here, you can follow me. Arjuna Vacha Drishtvaimam Swajanam Krishna Drishtvaimam Swajanam Krishna Yuyutsum Samupasthitam Sidanti Mama Gatrani Sidanti Mama Gatrani Mukham cha parishushyati Drishtvaimam Swajanam Krishna Yuyutsum Samupasthitam Sidanti Mama Gatrani Mukham cha parishushyati Drishtvaimam Swajanam Krishna Yuyutsum Samupasthitam Sidanti Mama Gatrani Mukham cha parishushyati. Anyone wants to recite? Okay, so word to word meaning. Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna said, Drishtva, after seeing, Imam, all these, Swajanam, kinsmen, Krishna, O Krishna, Yuyutsum, all in a fighting spirit, Samupasthitam, present there, Sidanti, are quivering, Mama, my, Gatrani, limbs of the body, Mukham, mouth, Cha, also, Parishushati, is drying up. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. Purport. Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all the good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods. Whereas the non-devotee, however advanced he may be in material qualifications by education and culture, lacks in good qualities, godly qualities. As such, Arjun, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them who had so decided to fight amongst themselves. As far as the soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning, but he felt compassion even for the soldiers on the opposite party, foreseeing their imminent death. And while he was so thinking, the limbs of his body began to quiver, and his mouth became dry. He was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjun, had come to fight with him. This overwhelmed a kind devotee like Arjun. Although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjuna's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but due to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said, therefore, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manorathena sati dhavato bahihi. One who has unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the mental plane and is certain to be attracted by the glaring material energy. So in this way, Arjuna's symptoms are described, and what kind of emotional changes are happening in him, that is described in this and the next couple of verses. So a few verses earlier he was saying, Dharta Rashtrasya Durbuddher Yuddhe Priyachikirshava. He was describing the members of the battlefield as Dharta Rashtrasya Durbuddhe, matlab those who have aligned themselves with the evil-minded Duryodhan. He was wondering why they have aligned with Duryodhan. So Dharta Rashtrasya Durbuddhe, whose intelligence has become Durbuddhi. And this verse is describing the same warriors as Swajanam. Just see the contrast. Suddenly he is now calling everyone as his people. So this indicates that he is relying too much on his vision. Drishtva imam. Upon seeing with my eyes all these people, I feel everyone is simply unnecessarily fighting this war. So like we discussed in several times before, over-relying on our own senses to analyze situations is risky. So we see people, we make judgments, We go through events and circumstances, we make certain judgments. All these judgments may not be accurate if it is based simply on information derived through our own senses. Because we gather only limited information from our eyes, from our ears. We hear something, he said something, she said something, and we draw some conclusions, which is most likely going to be wrong. Because in what context someone said something, someone did something, we don't know. We hear only partial information, one-sided information, and then we conclude something. We draw judgments. So in this way, Arjuna is seeing with his eyes so many things, and he is feeling, why this war, why fight, why waste, why kill so many people? And he's going through this set of emotions. What is the emotion going through? Sidanti mama gatrani mukham cha parishushyati. He is feeling, my limbs are shivering and my mouth is drying up. So the same Arjuna had fought much bigger battles, similar battles earlier also. He has fought with these warriors before in Virat and many other places. At that time he didn't go through these emotional changes. But now he is going through them. So, pratyaksha, when we rely too much on our senses to make judgments, it is risky. That's what is happening with Arjuna. But then fortunately for Arjuna, there is someone to consult. There is Krishna next to him, and he is going to consult Krishna. So that is a guarantee that he won't go through these emotional challenges for a long time. He will immediately gain stability. In the Ramayana, we find the story of Kaikeyi. The story of Kaikeyi, how just before Ram's coronation, Manthara and Kaikeyi had a talk, right? And Manthara said, remember the 2 boons you had received from the Dasharath. And the whole night, Manthara brainwashed Kaikeyi, saying, don't allow Ram to become the king, because then your son will be treated badly. You will be treated badly. So therefore, utilize these 2 boons that you have received from Dasharath and send Ram to forest for 14 years and install Bharat as the king. Know the story, right? So just few hours before, Kaikeyi was in a very happy mood, wanting to see Ram as the king and such celebrations and festivities happening in Ayodhya. So she was very happy. Few minutes of discussion with Manthara, the whole perspective changed. Right? But unfortunately, she didn't consult anyone. She didn't inquire, is this right? Is this the conspiracy to install Ram and drive away Bharat? Is there any conspiracy? She didn't inquire from anyone. If she would have inquired from someone, then they would have said, this is all false theory. ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं. But she believed what she heard from Manthara without cross-checking with anyone else. And therefore, she had to suffer for a long time until Ram finished his Vanvas, came back after 14 years. Till then, she was going through the trauma of making this blunder. So here, Kaikeyi didn't have anyone to consult, but Arjuna has someone to consult. So Arjuna is kind of lucky to have some guidance. So whenever we experience something in this world, we meet some unfavorable people, we go through some unfavorable situations, let us not immediately sink into depression, saying, oh, everything is lost now, what is the hope? So much pain, so much worry. Most of the time, the worries are not true. Because we imagine certain things based on what we see and hear. Some media reports we hear and then we get into depression. We start worrying. We see some friends doing something, अरे ऐसा हो गया, वैसा हो गया. And we feel, oh my God, what's going to happen with me? So some could be true, but majority of the time it is false. Therefore, we need to consult. We need to consult some reliable authority. We need to consult Gita. We need to consult Shastra and find out how to respond to situations, how to respond to provoking remarks from others. People will keep making remarks. But then, should I respond? Should I react? Should I retaliate? Should I tolerate? Or should I escalate? What is the right step? How to respond in the right manner? That we need to thoughtfully decide, not impulsively decide. Someone said something and we immediately react. Most of the time that's what happens, right? Someone kuch gali diya kisi ne, or someone said something and then we immediately shoot back. But it may not be the right response all the time. So here in this section, Krishna is going to use his opportunity to convert the battlefield into a classroom. So classroom is a place where you get education. Battlefield is the least favorable place for giving education to anyone. If I want to teach something to someone, I can't say let us go to Kargil and start discussing Gita or any other battlefield. We want a nice room, nice hall, nice sound system, maybe a nice air-conditioned room, and then I can conduct a course, 2-hour, 3-hour course. But it has come hard ways, right? If it comes easily, we don't cherish it, we don't value it. But if it comes through struggle, then that lessons remain in our heart permanently. So any situation in life, especially difficult situations in life, we shouldn't eagerly wait for them to get rid of. When we go through a difficult situation, we pray, "Arey, khatam hone do isko, let it get over." And unfortunately, we lose the opportunity to learn valuable lessons. And when we hope and pray, let the situation be comfortable, let my problems go away, and let me become happy. This is what most people think. What we fail to understand is this difficult situation is a golden opportunity to learn lessons that we may never get to learn in life. So here, Arjuna is facing the most difficult situation in life. What is the situation? He has to fight and kill his own loved and dear ones. He has to kill his grandfather, teacher, brothers and relatives and friends. What can be a more difficult situation? Just imagine we are told tomorrow you have to fight with your family members and kill them. And it's impossible to do. That's what Arjuna has to do. Arjuna has to kill his grandfather Bhishma, who was so loving to him, who raised him with so much love and affection throughout his childhood in the absence of his father. And now that person is standing on the opposite side. Then Dronacharya, his teacher, is standing on the opposite side. He was a favorite student of Dronacharya. And now he has to kill Dronacharya, kill Bhishma, and so many other dear friends. So that's the challenge he has to face. Emotional challenge. So just like if you want to test the caliber of an athlete or sports player, cricketer or footballer, you evaluate their caliber by how they perform, how many runs they score, how many goals they score. That's one way to check what their performance is. Another way to check their performance is when they are facing the most difficult opponent, how they are performing. Anyone can score hundreds of sixes when they are facing a weak opponent. But if there is a strong opponent, strong team, opposite side, and if this player is still facing them nicely, and he may not score runs, he may not score goals, but then he is playing nicely. So that way we understand this person is a great player. So जय श्री राधा गोपीनाथ भगवान की. So our caliber is seen not just when we give our best, but when life gives us its worst. When life is throwing the most difficult challenges upon us, not the most comfortable situations. In the most comfortable situation, anyone can perform nicely. But when life is throwing the biggest opponent, life is presenting the biggest opponent in front of us. And how do we perform in those situations? That will determine our character. And that's what Arjuna is undergoing here. So there is a nice saying. They say, the more we sweat in peace, this is a saying in defense, army, soldiers. The more we sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. What does it mean? So when there is peacetime, there is no war, there is no attack on the borders. If the soldiers practice well, train themselves nicely, sweat out nicely, work hard and get trained in all weapons, then if they are trained nicely, then when actual war happens, when actually the enemy attacks, then the less you bleed in war, then they will suffer less injuries, less casualties. But if the soldier decides, okay, abhi to koi attack hai nahi, koi enemy hai nahi, let me relax, let me enjoy, let me party. And suddenly there is an attack, terrorist attack or some country, enemy country attacks. Then they are not prepared. Right? The enemy doesn't give you warning, now I am attacking. It will come without warning. So if you are not prepared, not trained, not practiced, then there is greater loss. So many people will be killed. So many destruction will happen. So therefore, even in our spiritual life, in our daily life, if everything is going nicely, if our life is comfortable, happy, we need not waste time in just enjoying life. Definitely we should enjoy life, but we should at the same time prepare ourselves for challenges that are going to come, which are going to come anyway, unavoidably. If we don't practice, if we don't train our mind especially, how to face challenges, how to face difficult situations, how to respond in difficult situations. If we are not spiritually trained, if we are not trained in scripture, scriptural wisdom, then when actual difficult situations come up, then it's a big challenge. We get into depression, we get stressed out, and in worst cases, we become chronically psychological patients, or even worse, we may commit suicide. All because we are not prepared. So preparation means education. Ideally, education, spiritual education should begin right from school, at the age of 5. Prahlad, the boy saint, he says, Kaumara acharet pragyo, Kumar avastha. When a child is in Kumar avastha, 5-year-old, that's when education in spiritual principles should be imparted. Not when you face problems. Not when we are facing a problem, then we are told, Arey, this is how you should react. Don't worry, everything will be okay. Do this, do that. All patch up solutions. But that's not the time to educate. That's the time to apply the education. Education has to be done before, when everything is peaceful. That's the problem with our modern education system. There is practically no values imparted in spiritual principles in our schools, right? We study English, languages, mathematics, science, physics, chemistry, biology, history, geography. Where are values taught to children? 10 years spent in school, 10, 12 years. Then high school, then graduation, 5 years, then post-graduation, maybe PhD. 10 plus 7, 15, 17, 18 years gone in education. Not a single book taught on spiritual values. है कि नहीं? What a tragedy. It's a tragedy. 18 to 20 years education gone without preparation how to face war, how to face difficult situations in life. No surprise that people are committing suicides. Right? Why suicide rate is going high? So when there is when a students are facing psychological issues, exam stress, job stress, career stress, relationship breakdowns, how to deal with them. So when you don't get a job, there is stress. When you don't get admission in a proper college, there is stress. When you don't get the expected score in your exam, there is stress. You don't get the expected job in an expected company. You don't get the expected pay package. You feel, what injustice is happening in my life? I have spent so much money, so much effort in studying, and this is the job I am getting? I deserve much better job. There is stress. And even if you get a job, there is stress, there is competition. I don't get a promotion, I don't get incentives, I don't get the proper pay package. Then there is a stress of getting laid off. Again, so much layoffs are happening nowadays. Then the stress of getting another job. Then stress of entering into marriage, getting the right family, life partner. If you get a life partner, then the stress of how to deal with the life partner. So much challenges. Then I feel I didn't get the right partner. I need another partner. Then there's a divorce ka stress, a remarriage ka stress. So much stress. Where is the preparation done to face this? How was a child prepared? What kind of values was given to the child to face these unavoidable challenges? Never. So what is the best solution? End your life. Commit suicide. The school children have stress. Can you believe? There are child psychologists to help them deal with study stress. Poor child. Very soon, as soon as the child comes out of the mother's womb, you'll have to prepare infant psychologists maybe in the future. Anything can happen. So this is the condition we are facing in this age of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is the age of stress, age of chronic depression. Everyone, we all have stress. We may not admit it, but we all have different levels of stress. When the stress level goes beyond a threshold level, then you need clinical help. So Arjuna is going through similar crisis. Not because he didn't have training earlier. He had enough training. At least he had the wisdom, whom to consult. That intelligence, wisdom he had. And fortunately he had Krishna close by as his friend and guide. So therefore he asks questions. He doesn't ask question how to fight with Bhishma, how to fight with Dronacharya. That's not the basic question. That he knows already. He has all the skills to fight the war. What is missing is why to fight the war. He doesn't get the reason, the logic behind why this war is happening. Why so many millions of people have assembled here to fight an unwanted war. That's the question bothering him. Why this war? What do we gain out of it? And why should I fight this? They may want to fight. Why should I fight? These are the questions, existential questions Arjuna is facing. And therefore Krishna begins. Krishna answers the question not by saying, this Duryodhana is a problem, this Bhishma is a problem, and this Shakuni is a problem. He doesn't mention any names. He begins answering Arjuna's question by saying, understand first who you are. What is your real identity? That's how he begins. Once you understand who you are, once you understand who everyone is, originally, spiritually, then you will understand why there is a divine mission behind this. This war is not just a war between two sets of family members. This war is organized for establishing a divine mission here. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna says in the 4th chapter. And you are just an instrument in establishing dharma here. It is not your selfish motive. You are not fighting for yourself. You are fighting for a superior cause. You are fighting for me, Krishna says. There is a divine plan, and take part in this plan and become glorious. So in this way, when Arjuna hears all this, then he picks up his weapons and fights. So therefore, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. We have to prepare. This is a peace time, right? Fortunately, we are not facing any war. There is no big crisis in society. So let us take this opportunity and study the Gita nicely, understand the principles of the Gita. And then we face situations in life. We are well equipped with all the tools to face the challenges. Srila Prabhupada used to talk about his own experience. He used to say, I was tested twice in life. Once when all my business failed, I lost all my money, I lost all my family members, the family members abandoned me, my sons abandoned me, my servants abandoned me. I lost everything and there was no one to support me. That is the first test I faced. First major test. And so usually what happens when we face reversals in life, when we face difficulties and setbacks in life? Generally, people take to addictions. We take to addictions like smoking or drinking, drugs, or even binge movie watching, hours and hours of television watching, the internet surfing. So in this way, these are all addictions. So what happens in addiction? Addictions help you forget the problem. Addictions don't exactly solve the problem. But we think, because we forget the problem, we feel kind of relief. For some time, as long as the addiction is active, we forget the problem, then we feel relief and happy. But when the addiction ka nasha gets over, then we are again facing the same problem. Then the problem appears to be much bigger than what it was originally. And then you need a higher dose of addiction, higher dose of drugs or alcohol. And then for some time you are again relieved. Again the problem comes. How much can we take, right? So this is how people, when we are not equipped with spiritual wisdom, Gita wisdom, spiritual values, then we take shelter of material substances, all these intoxications, to help cope with these problems. That's why there's such a rise of alcohol consumption, drug consumption. It's all because we are not equipped with the right tools. So this is how usually people respond. Or what they will do, they will start blaming and cursing everyone. They will get into depression. They may not take to drugs and intoxication, alcohol, but they will suffer internally. Because they have no spiritual values, they will go through depression, and eventually they will become psychiatric patients. Now they will commit suicide, the worst case. Prabhupada gives the example of British times. When one time the British, during the Second World War, there was an artificial famine created. The British wanted to ensure that when the Japanese attacked India, Second World War 1944-45 period, The Japanese were attacking Calcutta. They were bombing Calcutta. So if the Japanese come into Indian land, then they should not get food. That was their plan. So whatever stock of rice was available, British dumped all the rice into the sea. Thousands of tons of rice was wasted into the sea. So that the Japanese don't get this. And what happened as a result? Poor Indian farmers, they didn't have anything to eat. Artificially created famine. And in this way, thousands of people starved to death. People were fighting like dogs to get some food. But Prabhupada noticed one thing. Although Indians were starving, there was no crime detected. They were not looting people, running into people's homes and stealing things. They didn't do that. Relatively, crime was far less. Even though social condition was so bad. Because they accepted it as their own karma. ठीक है, हमारा karma बुरा है. So therefore we are suffering all this. They didn't revolt. If it was in other countries, people would have revolted against the British. They knew British had done this crime, but they didn't revolt against the British. Of course, eventually we revolted and fought for independence. But at that time, they were composed. And they accepted it as their own karma, karmic reactions. All because of how this karma philosophy is Gita philosophy. To accept that whatever situations I am going through is because of something wrong I have done in the past. This is Gita philosophy. And in this way they tolerated. Many people died. But then eventually British got their reaction. They suffered the loss. London was getting bombed by Germans. So in this way, if we are trained in these values, then even in the midst of the greatest calamity, greatest difficulty, we don't lose our balance. We don't lose our integrity. We maintain the principles, we maintain the truthfulness, and we can continue. We know this is a phase. It's a phase of life, it is not a permanent thing. And just like happiness and distress keep coming and going, like a sine wave. ऊपर नीचे होता ही रहता है life में. So we learn to accept the present and how to respond to these situations. In the Bhagavatam, there is a nice verse. Bhishma is telling about the Pandavas. He says, Aho kashtam aho nyayam yadyuyam dharmanandana jivitum narhata klishtam vipradharma chatashraya. So after the war got over and Yudhishthir became the king, and Bhishma is there lying on Kurukshetra, on the bed of arrows. Right? He didn't die immediately. So war got over and then they became installed as the king. Then they come back to Kurukshetra to meet Bhishma before his death. And Bhishma is going to impart some instructions, some wisdom. Based on all his experience throughout his life, he has lived a long life, right? And he has gained such tremendous wisdom. Yudhishthir wanted to learn those things. So he comes back to Kurukshetra, where he is lying on the bed of arrows. And he starts asking questions about how to rule the kingdom, how to deal with all the political situations. And this way Bhishma is instructing all these things. So at that time, he is appreciating the Pandavas. He says, you guys, you 5 Pandavas, Mother Kunti, Draupadi and all, aho kashtam aho anyayam. You have gone through so many difficulties, so many injustices, so much unfair treatment you have faced. You could have died. Right? So much atrocities were committed against you. You could have almost died. But fortunately, you didn't die because you were protected by Vipradharma Achyutashraya. You were protected by saintly people, Vipras. You were protected by Dharma, principles of Dharma. And you were protected by Achyuta, Lord Krishna himself. Because of these three levels of protection, in spite of such atrocities committed against you, you survived. So, we need these three if we want real protection. If we want to cross over the most difficult situations in life, if we have support of these three things. Which are those? Guidance from saintly people, Guru Sadhu, Vipras, and guidance of Dharma, Shastric wisdom, principles of Dharma. It is said, if you protect Dharma, Dharma will protect you. Dharmo rakshati rakshitah. So if you don't give up the principles of Dharma, even in difficult situations, then Dharma will eventually protect you. So generally what happens if you're going through difficult situations, say in business, if there is a business loss, then what do? Usually people will do illegal things. Somehow do some locha gadbad and earn some unfair money. Right? We break the principles of ethics. We may cheat others. And we may justify it by saying, kya kare, jabardasti tha. Karna pada. Otherwise I wouldn't have done, we may say. Lekin abhi aisa situation aa gaya, so I did. So don't blame me. But if we can maintain the principles even in the most difficult situations, that's called protection from Dharma. Then Dharma will protect you. And Vipradharma Achyutashraya. Ultimately, we have to seek shelter in Krishna. Achyuta. God only ultimately can protect us. No other shelter in this world can give us protection. Every shelter in this material world is false security. They can give us limited security, limited protection, but not the highest security. Asat, they are called Asat Sapi. And they appear to be great insurance, but actually they cannot be true insurance. We may have all insurance policies and investments in real estate and gold and everywhere. Bank, all kind of FD investments. How far can they protect us? People with thousands of crores of bank balance, they die in a very simple manner. Maybe in an accident or with some heart attack somewhere. The most unexpected time, they die. None of these bank balances help them. Right? Crores of rupees deposited. They earned a lifetime of earnings. But that money was of no use during their most critical time of life. So therefore they are called false securities or temporary securities. What is of real security? If we don't invest our heart and mind and time in real securities that are available with us, then we miss the real thing. So Vipradharma Achyutashraya, the Bhagavatam is saying. Take shelter of saintly people, their saintly wisdom, scriptural wisdom, follow the principles of ethics and dharma as given by scriptures, and ultimately take shelter of Krishna, who is the source and the shelter of all wisdom and principles. If we have these three shelters, then even if other shelters are unavailable, nothing to worry. That needs practice. How to take shelter of Krishna in the most critical situation. How to maintain the principles of dharma in the most difficult situation. Where to seek out guidance in difficult situations. That needs practice. Just like if an athlete wants to participate in Olympic Games or any other competition, he has to practice throughout his period, practice period. And then when the day of the competition arrives, he can perform. He knows this is how I have to run, this is how I have to play. When there's a cricket match, there is practice done, right? Bowling practice, batting practice, fielding practice, wicket keeping practice. Then when the actual match happens, then they know. I will field this kind of ball and I have to hit like this. Similarly, if we have practiced throughout our life, then when difficult situations come, we know how to respond. We are prepared. Practice is not to escape the problems, how to face the problem. That is the goal behind practice. So a spiritual practitioner, a spiritual seeker will also go through the same problems. We should not say, "Arey, I am practicing spiritual life, I am following Gita and I am worshipping Krishna. Why there is problem in my life?" This is a childish question. We are practicing spiritual life not to run away from problems or to avoid problems, but to learn how to face problems. That's the idea. So a devotee will also face problems in spite of practicing spiritual life. But the way we respond, way devotees will respond, there's a different from how ordinary people will respond. So if we equip ourselves with this Gita wisdom, the wisdom that Krishna is giving to Arjuna here, then we can be really happy. Happy because we know how to face these challenges. So in this way, Arjuna is going through this situation. We will continue this discussion the next week also. The same theme continues. What all symptoms he is going through? What all symptoms he is going through upon facing these soldiers? That discussion will continue. Okay, any questions or comments anyone has on this section?
He was facing problems and he was deserted by everyone. So can you speak more on this, how he dealt with that?
Yeah, so two times he said I faced tests. One was everything was taken away from me, and when everything was given back to me later. So initially, before he went to America, before he started the movement ISKCON, he had no support, no help, no friends. He was struggling hard to distribute back to Godhead copies, magazines here. And no one was showing interest. Indians. No one showing interest. They said, "Oh, we know, हमको तो पता है गीता सब हमने जाना, हमको पता है रामायण महाभारत सब जानते हैं हम लोग." So he said, then okay, let me try somewhere else. Indians are not ready, it seems. And his guru had told him, go to the West. Share this knowledge to the English-speaking countries in the West. But he was not getting an opportunity to go to the West. He tried hard, but somehow it was not working out. Finally, he got an opportunity, he went to the West, he went to America. And then they received it nicely. They welcomed the knowledge, they applied the knowledge. And the movement began there. And in a span of 11 years, he had so many centers all over the world, in every continent, in every major city of the world. In all in 11 years. 1965 to 1977. So then he said, Krishna tested me twice. The second time when I got everything. So usually when we lose everything, we become depressed. And when we get everything, what happens to us? We become arrogant. Right? I am the one, I did everything, this and that. We start bragging about ourselves. Both are failures. If you get into depression, that's a failure. If you become arrogant, that's another failure. Both are bad. So in this way, but Prabhupada maintained his faith in Krishna, faith in his Guru's words. When nothing was available, no support was available, he still had faith. Someday it is going to happen. Because it is a prediction. Lord Chaitanya's prediction that in every town and village, the holy name of Krishna will be chanted. Who will do it? That's another thing. But that's going to happen. So he had faith. Faith in the holy name, faith in his Guru's order, faith in the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. And that faith eventually gave him results. And when he actually got the results, he didn't get proud and arrogant. He gave the credit to his guru. By my guru's blessings, I was able to do this. By Krishna's grace, I was able to do this. So he remained humble. Even in success or failure, we should not lose our balance. Okay, so thank you so much. I would like to make a few announcements. There is an upcoming Bhagavad Gita course on July 7th, 8th and 9th. A 3-day Gita course where you will find the basic concepts of Gita are explained. It's 7 to 9 p.m. in the evening. Very nicely you will understand the basic concepts of the Gita. Once you understand these basic concepts, then when you read the Gita, it becomes easier to understand. So please, if you have not done this, please enroll for it. And there's another also, on one more course, the pamphlets are given there. That course is going to be conducted by Radha Prabhu. So if you are interested, you can sign up for that also. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.